My name is Raphael, and for years, I was the black sheep of the family. While my siblings followed the traditional path, college, master's degrees, corporate jobs, I chose to build something from scratch. And for that choice, I was humiliated at every family dinner, every reunion, and every conversation. But on the day my father passed away and everyone gathered in the lawyer's office for the reading of the will, the truth came out in a way no one could have imagined. What happened in that room changed everything. It all started when I was 19. My siblings, Pedro and Carla, were always the pride of the family. Pedro graduated in engineering from the best state university. Carla went to law school and passed the bar exam on her first try. Me? I barely finished high school and decided that university wasn't for me. It wasn't laziness, it wasn't a lack of intelligence, I just saw things differently. While my siblings studied theories and concepts, I was obsessed with how things worked in practice, how businesses actually operated, how money circulated, how to create real value. My father never accepted it. "Raphael, you'll end up washing cars for the rest of your life," he would say, with that tone of contempt that cut me to the core. "Your siblings will have respectable careers, and you'll be a failure." My mother tried to soften things, but deep down, I knew she felt the same way. The look of disappointment was always there. At 21, I left home. I couldn't stand being compared, diminished, and treated like my choices were one giant mistake. I rented a small room on the outskirts of town and started working whatever jobs came my way. I did deliveries, worked in construction, sold products online. There was no glamour, but every penny I earned was mine. And while I worked these jobs, I observed. I saw the problems companies had. I saw the inefficiencies. I saw opportunities that no one else was noticing. That's how my first business idea was born. I realized that many small and medium-sized companies didn't have access to efficient logistics solutions. They paid fortunes to large carriers or lost time and money managing deliveries in an amateur way. There was a huge gap there. With the little money I had saved, about 8,000 reais, I created a small logistics company. In the beginning, it was just me and an old van I bought used. I did the deliveries myself, handled the customers, and did the accounting. I slept 4 hours a night. The first few months were brutal. There were weeks when I didn't know if I'd be able to pay the rent, but I kept going. I improved the processes. I automated what I could. I hired people. I invested in cheap but functional technology. Slowly, the company began to grow. Meanwhile, my family knew nothing. I had distanced myself completely. I stopped going to Sunday dinners and didn't answer calls. When my mother managed to reach me, I told her I was working, but I never went into details. Pedro got a job as an engineer at a medium-sized firm. He earned well, but nothing extraordinary. Carla opened a law firm, but was always complaining about the lack of clients. Even so, they remained the family favorites. 5 years passed. My company now had 15 employees and served over 100 clients. We weren't giants, but we were growing consistently. I still lived simply. No luxury car, no mansion. All the profit was reinvested into the business. That's when something unexpected happened. My father had a small family business that manufactured plastic parts for the industry. He had always managed it traditionally, without much innovation. But in recent years, the business had started to decline. Stronger competition, rising costs, shrinking margins. Pedro, who now worked at my father's company, suggested they hire a consulting firm to fix the operations. The firm they hired was partnered with a series of suppliers and service providers, including logistics companies. And guess which logistics company was recommended? Mine. But they didn't know it was mine. I had registered the company under a different corporate name, Techlog Solutions, and I used managers to handle larger clients. I preferred to stay behind the scenes, focusing on strategy. When the consultants presented the proposal to use Techlog to optimize my father's company's logistics, he accepted. And so, without knowing it, my father began to depend on my services. In the following months, we implemented systems that reduced his transport costs by 40%. We optimized routes, improved delivery times, and reduced losses. His company began to recover. Pedro was impressed. "This Techlog is incredible," he commented during one of the rare family events I couldn't avoid. "They saved Dad's company." I just smiled and changed the subject. 5 years later, my family's financial situation had considerably improved. My father's company was stable again. Pedro had been promoted to manager. Carla got some better clients, and all of this, in a way, had been influenced by my company's work. But I was still the outcast, the failure without a degree. Then, my father got sick. It was an aggressive cancer. Within 6 months, he was terminally ill. In his final days, my mother called asking me to visit him in the hospital. I went, but the meeting was cold. He barely looked at me. There was no reconciliation, no apology, only silence. When he passed away, I went to the funeral but kept my distance. I saw my siblings receiving condolences, being hugged and comforted. I was there, but it was like I was invisible. A week later, we were called for the reading of the will. The lawyer's office was large and elegant. Dr. Mauricio was a man in his 60s, serious, wearing glasses. He greeted us and asked us to sit down. We were all there, me, Pedro, Carla, and my mother. Dr. Mauricio opened the folder and began to read. In accordance with the last will of José Ricardo Mendez, this testament establishes the division of assets as follows. He spoke about the house, which would go to my mother. Then he mentioned some savings and investments, which would be divided between Pedro and Carla. They were considerable amounts, about 400,000 reais each. My name was not mentioned. Pedro and Carla exchanged uncomfortable glances. My mother looked down. I just listened in silence. Then Dr. Mauricio continued. Regarding the company J.R. Mendez Plastic Industry, it will be divided as follows. 50% of the shares to Pedro Mendez and 50% to Carla Mendez. Carla smiled, relieved. Pedro nodded, satisfied. The company was worth millions. They were set for life. There is, however, an important observation. Dr. Mauricio, turning the page. In the last 3 years, J.R. Mendez has become dependent on contracts and services provided by Techlog Logistics Solutions. These contracts currently represent 85% of the company's operational efficiency. Pedro frowned. Yes, Techlog has been essential, but what does that have to do with the will? Dr. Mauricio looked directly at me, and for the first time, a slight smile appeared on his face. Techlog Logistics Solutions belongs to Rafael Mendez. He is the founder and only owner. The silence that fell over the room was deafening. Pedro blinked, confused. What? Rafael? Our Rafael? Yes, Dr. Mauricio confirmed. Your father discovered this information about a year ago when he decided to investigate the company's business partners. He found out that the son he had rejected was in fact the person keeping his business afloat. My mother put her hand to her mouth, her eyes tearing up. Carla turned pale. Pedro simply couldn't process it. Then Dr. Mauricio continued. José Ricardo Mendez left specific instructions. He wanted you to know this only after his death, and he included a letter for Rafael. He handed me the envelope. My hands shook as I opened it. My father's handwriting was there, shaky, likely written in his final days.
Rafael, I spent my life believing that success meant degrees and titles. I was wrong. You built something real, something that matters, and I was too blind to see it. I pushed you away when I should have held you close. You saved my company, my legacy, without me deserving it. I don't expect forgiveness, but I want you to know I was wrong and you were right. You are the only one of my children who truly understood what it means to build something from zero. I am sorry I didn't say this while I was alive. I had to stop. The tears made it impossible to continue. Dr. Mauricio filled the silence. There is an additional clause. José Ricardo established that, should Rafael wish, he has the option to acquire the shares of J.R. Mendez at a fair market value, but with favorable conditions. He also established a fund of 1 million reais in Rafael's name from his personal savings in recognition of everything he did. Pedro was in shock. So the company we inherited only works because of him? Exactly, Dr. Mauricio said. Without Techlog's services, J.R. Mendez would return to the critical state it was in a few years ago. I left that office in a whirlwind of emotions. Anger, sadness, relief, validation, all at the same time. My father had recognized me, but too late. He had seen my value, but didn't have the courage to say it while he was alive. In the following days, I had difficult conversations with my mother and siblings. It wasn't easy. There were years of hurt, unspoken words, and unfair judgments. But for the first time, they looked at me differently. Not as the failure, but as someone who had achieved something extraordinary. Pedro came to see me a week later. He was ashamed, humble in a way I had never seen before. "I judged you. For years, I thought you were a loser. But you built all of this yourself, without anyone's help. And on top of that, you saved Dad's company. I don't have words to apologize." Carla came shortly after, with tears in her eyes. "I was horrible to you. I treated you like you were worth nothing. But you were always worth more than all of us combined." As for my father's company, I decided not to buy it. Not out of revenge, but because it didn't make sense. My business was doing well. I had my own plans. But I renegotiated the contracts with better terms for my siblings and took an advisory role in the management. Techlog kept growing. Today, 7 years after that day in the lawyer's office, we have 200 employees and operate in 5 states. My company is worth over 20 million reais. And you know what the best part is? I didn't do it to prove anything to anyone. I did it because I believed in myself, even when no one else did. My father spent his life valuing degrees and status. In the end, he discovered that the son without a college education was the only one who truly understood what it meant to build something of value. The irony is cruel, but also liberating. Today, I have a better relationship with my family. It's not perfect, but it's honest. They respect me now, not for the money, but for what I represented when no one was betting on me. And every time I pass by a university and see students leaving their classes, I don't feel regret. I feel gratitude for choosing my own path. Because at the end of the day, success isn't about following the script they give you. It's about writing your own script, even when everyone says you're wrong. It took my father years to understand that. I understood it at 19. If this story impacted you in any way, subscribe to the channel.